My name's Colin. I live in Bath in the southwest of England. This is my channel, the Yay, Nay or Meh channel, and it's time once again to do some Oscar predictions. In fact, arguably, it's past the point I should be doing more Oscar predictions, because I was planning on doing some Oscar predictions after the Cannes Film Festival, one of the big early things in the year in the calendar, which gives us some indication of what is going to happen come Oscar time. But I realised that after the end of the Cannes Film Festival, it was only about 10 days before Steven Spielberg's Disclosure Day came out. I thought, okay, well, this is one of the blockbuster type Oscar contenders which I felt I need to see. So why not just delay until Disclosure Day comes out? But this also gave me the benefit of two extra things happened whilst I was waiting for Disclosure Day to come out. Michael, the Michael Jackson biopic, came out on streaming. And since I have had personally made the choice that on moral grounds I didn't want to pay for watching Michael, it gave me the chance to pirate it. Frankly, I think it's made over $1 billion at this point, so it doesn't need my £9 or whatever, the equivalent of £9. Because I could have got in with my Odeon Cinema membership. But I don't feel like financially supporting this film, which I personally feel is utterly reprehensible. So I pirated it, and it came out in this gap between Cannes and Disclosure Day coming out. And it also happened that we got the first teaser trailer for The Social Reckoning as well, which also helped solidify certain things in my ranking, which I'll be getting onto in a minute. But even before this post-Cannes period, there were a couple of rather interesting things which happened in the sphere of Oscar predictions. The new set of rules for the 2027 Oscars came out, and there were a few interesting things which happened. It is now possible for individual performers to get nominated in the same category for multiple different films, which hasn't happened for decades, almost a century now. I think that could happen in the very, very early days, in sort of like the 30s and 40s, but that hasn't happened for decades. Personally, I actually don't think that's a great rule change. I think the only thing it's going to do is going to dilute the appeal of people who have multiple potential performances in the same year. I mean, the one that everybody's talking about is Sandra Hüller, who has like 3 or 4 potential Oscar Beatty type films. And I think it's just going to split her vote and anybody else who potentially could get in. So I'm not a huge fan of that rule. One rule that I am actually a huge fan of is a change to the international feature rules. And the international feature is personally one of my focuses. It has been for years. I mean, even when I was back doing my audio podcast, I always paid really close attention to the international feature Oscar race, or the foreign language Oscar race. And they have now made the rule that, as well as individual countries submitting to the Academy, foreign language films which win one of the major awards at some of the major film festivals around the world, the biggest film festivals around the world, automatically get submitted. So those are the 3 huge European film festivals, Berlin, Cannes and Venice, the 2 major North American film festivals, Sundance and Toronto, and also the biggest Asian film festival, Busan, in South Korea. Now, I think this is a great new rule. I mean, because last year it would have meant that it was just an accident, would have automatically been put into the running, and France wouldn't have had to submit it, and we might have got an extra French film in there, which, given the published shortlist last year, it might actually have been Richard Linklater's Nouvelle Vague, which would have been interesting. But we would have got an actual French film in the running last year. And that's a quirk I'll be talking about a little bit later when I talk about the Cannes films, which have pushed themselves into the conversation. Personally, I don't think it goes far enough. I think there are cases to be made for many, many more film festivals around the world. I think Locarno is one that probably should be in there. Karlovy Vary probably should be in there. San Sebastian, maybe. Possibly even Rotterdam. I think you can make an argument for that. In North America, Telluride, New York. In Asia, Taipei, I think you can make a case for. Even Mar del Plata from Argentina. I think that there's some case for that, although that would be stretching things a bit. But yeah, certainly Locarno, I think, is the one that I thought, yeah, Locarno and Karlovy Vary are big enough festivals that they probably should be on that list, but it's a very, very good first step. So that's a really cool thing. And also, since the last time I recorded, several films have been officially pushed back into 2027. We have Luca Guadagnino's Artificial has been pushed. Apparently, I mean, the public statement was to avoid clashing with The Social Reckoning, which has, I guess, has similar aesthetic, a similar idea, but that was the public statement for pushing that. Danny Boyle's Ink has also been pushed to 2027, and that was always possible. I mean, I wasn't at all confident of that coming out in 2026 in the first place, but it's been officially pushed to 2027. But the biggest one is Greta Gerwig's Narnia has been pushed to 2027. Which surprised me. It's been pushed to February 2027 for an IMAX slot. That seems like a very strange one to me. But I guess Netflix kind of knows what they're doing. And they made other interesting moves at Cannes, which again I'll be talking about later. But yeah, Greta Gerwig's Narnia pushed to February 2027. That's an interesting one. It has shaken things up, as indeed have all the films that premiered at Cannes, to mixed responses. I mean, some really pushed up, some we weren't even talking about got really good attention, some we were talking about previously didn't do so well and they've dropped down the list, and I'll be talking about all that. But yeah, this is largely going to be talking about things from Cannes which have shoved themselves into the conversation, and a few which have dropped down slightly. So let's just get on with it. And the top of the list is pretty much the same as it was in my last video. Sir Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey remains at number one. I think at this stage of the discussion, at this stage of the year of the calendar, this is not so much a vote for what is going to win the Best Picture Oscar, but unless it's an absolute disaster, which it'll be, I would be astonished, I'd be shocked if it is an utter disaster. But unless it is an utter disaster, I mean, I just don't see any way in which The Odyssey doesn't even get nominated. So yeah, it has to be the front runner at this stage in the year. The same thing with Digger. I mean, some people really, really, really believe in Digger. I'm not so sure. I mean, Tom Cruise in a Iñárritu movie, and from the little I've seen, the little I've heard about Digger, it looks like Tom Cruise in a lot of prosthetics. I'm wary about Digger, but Iñárritu has a history with the Academy. Tom Cruise doesn't have a history with the Academy, and maybe he's due. So he seems to be the front runner for Best Actor. I mean, I'm not even touching the acting categories at this stage in the year. I'm not a full believer in Digger, but I believe in it. I can't, at this stage of the process, I can't believe it's not going to get nominated for Best Picture. And the top three is the same top three from my last video, because I still have Fjord. Christian Mungiu's Fjord at my number 3 slot, which did win the Palme d'Or. Now, it's going to be interesting seeing if this does end up being eligible for the International Feature Oscar race. Because with the new rule that they announced, Fjord, if it is classified as a non-English language film, will be eligible for the International Feature race. But there's some talk that it's so much in English that it won't qualify. And there have been some public statements to that effect. We shall have to see. I personally think that the rule about being mostly in English can get conveniently ignored if the Academy likes the film enough or the filmmaker enough. My example is last year, the film My Father's Shadow was submitted by England. It's from a Nigerian-born filmmaker, and his brother wrote it as well. And it's about their childhood and their father. And for my money, that had far, far too much standard English in it. I mean, the subtitles were helpful because the accents were very thick, but the actual language used, I mean, yes, there was a lot of pidgin English in it, which is the workaround that they've started using for African films, but it was a lot of standard English in My Father's Shadow, and they let it slide. So it's my belief that if you can squint and think that there's a lot of Norwegian and or Romanian in Fjord, then they're going to let it in. Until proven otherwise, I think that Fjord is in. I mean, what is definitely in given the new rule is the Berlinale winner, a German film in the Turkish language, Yellow Letters, directed by Ilker Çatak, who is a German director of Turkish heritage. So yeah, that sounds interesting, doesn't sound like a winner. Yellow Letters. And the winner from Sundance is, I'm not sure if it's Albanian or Kosovar, but it's a film called Shame and Money. That won the international section of Sundance, so that's already in. How to see how that goes, but those two films are definitely qualified for the international Oscar race already, maybe Fjord as well. But regardless of whether it's in the international field, the track record of the Palme d'Or winner getting into the Best Picture running, it almost always happens. I mean, last year, obviously, it was just an accident, didn't get in. And F1 did. I mean, that still annoys me so much. I mean, that It Was Just an Accident is such a brilliant film, and F1 isn't. I mean, even given the type of film it is, it's not a good example of that type of... But anyway, the Palme d'Or winner almost always gets into Best Picture, so I think Fjord is going to get in. And I think whether or not it's in English, it's an international type feature, and I think it's in. Wild Horse 9, Martin McDonagh's new film, I think is definitely still a major player. I think Martin McDonagh always gets in. He doesn't always win, but I mean, 3 Billboards, Banshees of Inisherin, really highly nominated films with a couple of wins for 3 Billboards. And what, for the little we've seen of Wild Horse 9, it very much looks like a redo of In Bruges, which was and is a brilliant film. I'm definitely getting In Bruges vibes from the what I've seen of Wild Horse 9. And it's got a hell of a cast. So yeah, I think Wild Horse 9 is a very safe bet to get in. As is Project Hail Mary. I think it's getting to the stage where I personally really enjoyed Project Hail Mary. I think it is the epitome, the absolute example of a crowd-pleasing film. Ryan Gosling is incredibly charismatic, incredibly engaging, acting most of the film, presumably just against a tennis ball. Actually, no, there was puppets involved, but Rocky is a brilliant character, even though he's a rock. But I mean, whatever he was acting against, he wasn't acting against another human, and Ryan Gosling managed to achieve it. And it's gripping, it's engaging, it's a crowd pleaser, it's fun. I mean, Lord and Miller know what they're doing with this kind of entertainment. Personally speaking, I wouldn't have necessarily said Best Picture contender. Despite its massive popularity, despite the amount of money it's made, I don't think I would necessarily have said Best Picture contender, but I honestly can't deny it, and I wouldn't begrudge it because the responses to this film have been extraordinary. With good reason. I think it is an incredible piece of work. But Best Picture, I think it's probably going to get into the running. I'd be astonished if it comes anywhere near winning, but it is going to be one of the films of 2026. It just is. And there's usually slots for a blockbuster or two. I mean, it's usually about 2 blockbusters a year, or has been over the last few years, and you have Project Hail Mary and you have The Odyssey. You have stuff that isn't in my list this year, including what I delayed this video for, and I've never been a believer in Dune, which I'll be talking about in a minute. So you have to find room for blockbusters, and Project Hail Mary, I think, is a reasonably safe bet. So those top 5 I'm reasonably confident in. At this stage, in the middle of June 2026, I'm actually recording this on the first day of the World Cup. I've just finished watching Mexico defeat South Africa in the first game, and after I'm recording this, I'm going to go back downstairs and watch Czechia take on South Korea at 3 a.m. UK time. So yeah, middle of June, and those 5 I think are pretty safe. From this point on, I'm less confident, but I mean, I have reasons for putting these in, and as well as around 2 blockbusters in every Best Picture lineup, there's usually 2 and only 2 foreign language features or international features. And the second one that I'm going to put in is Ryusuke Hamaguchi's All of a Sudden. Because whether or not Fjord is actually in Norwegian or Romanian, it's an international feature which came out of Cannes. So that, for me, takes up one slot, and the other slot, I'm sticking with All of a Sudden, which does sound like basically a 3-hour conversation between these 2 women, Virginia Fira and Tao Okamoto. And that sounds like my kind of thing. I mean, I love Richard Linklater's Before trilogy, and that's kind of what we have here. And there's other examples. I mean, like, The End of the Tour is basically a 2-handed film. South Side with You, which is a fictionalised account of the first date of the Obamas. That's actually a really good walk and talk 2-handed film. And it sounds like this is what All of a Sudden is. And questions of mortality and friendship and nationality and aging and finding dignity in dire circumstances. I mean, it sounds amazing, and it got some good reports coming out of Cannes. The only award it won was Best Actress for both of its actors, which is less than a lot of people seem to think it should have got. But I think my second international feature, because I am classifying Fjord as an international feature, I'm going with All of a Sudden. Next on my list, I really struggled with this, but I still have Josephine in my Best Picture lineup. I really, really considered taking it out of my top 10, but it's still in for now. I do believe in it because, I mean, coming out of Sundance, this was all that anybody was talking about, was Josephine, this amazing performance by this little girl, this harrowing but brilliant film about a really, really difficult subject. That feels like a Best Picture contender to me. I mean, the only issue really with this film is the fact it is distributed by Sumerian Pictures, which nobody's ever heard of. They've only just started distributing films. I mean, they were a record label until about a year ago. And now they're going to distribute a Sundance winner. Are they going to be able to get it into Best Picture? I think that's the main reason why people are moving away from it. I still have faith. You would have said the same thing when Neon bought I, Tonya, or when A24 started getting involved in the Best Picture race, or even Mubi. You would have said, oh, that's an unknown quantity, and yet those three companies have successfully managed to get involved. In some cases, I mean, Neon consistently year on year gets into Best Picture. So is this the start of Sumerian doing that, of being a major contender in this kind of thing? I have faith, or at least I have enough faith. I mean, Beth D'Araujo's first film, or last, I think it was her debut feature, Soft and Quiet, was again absolutely harrowing but absolutely brilliant. And I'm so pleased that she's managed to get in with a major contender at Sundance. And it also doesn't hurt that she's one of few female directors who has a strong contender this year. There's not a great deal of women who could get involved in this race, and she's also non-white, which also helps. So yeah, right now I still believe in Josephine. For how much longer, I'm not sure. Will it still be in my top 10 next time I do one of these videos? Who can say? But for right now, Josephine is still in. And also still in is The Social Reckoning from Aaron Sorkin. Now, in the first draft of this list, which I had immediately after Cannes had finished, and then I was, Disclosure Day is just coming out and I delayed. I initially had The Social Reckoning out of my top 10. And then the teaser trailer came out, and yeah, I believe in it enough that it's still in my top 10. I mean, it's not David Fincher, so it's not going to be The Social Network, and Aaron Sorkin as director doesn't have a fantastic track record, but as a writer, I think The West Wing is one of the best television shows of the 21st century. It's brilliant. And Aaron Sorkin is a great writer. I mean, he's got a very particular style, but he's a great writer. And him doing this, and from what we've seen in that teaser trailer, yeah, I believe in it enough. I also believe in Jeremy Strong now, I think. And obviously Mikey Madison and Bill Burr as well has a surprisingly prominent feature in that teaser trailer. So yeah, I mean, I believe enough that I put it back in my top 10. I mean, as I said, I mean, the top 5 on this list, I absolutely believe in 100%. I think those are, at this stage, locks to be in the Best Picture running. The bottom 5 on this list, I'm less sure about. But and the best options we have right now include The Social Reckoning for me. So it's still in my top 10. And the last 2 films on this list are big risks and big swings. Both of these last 2 films were in my 3rd tier in my last video, right near the bottom of my list, because in both cases, I just wasn't sure they're coming out in 2026. But there are things that I wanted to take out of my top 10, and there wasn't really anything I felt strong enough to put them in. So, yeah, I'm taking a punt, taking a risk that both of these films will come out. And as far as I'm aware, both of these films have had test screenings. Well, the first film I want to talk about, Behemoth, has had test screenings, and apparently the responses have been good. I mean, Tony Gilroy has some profile. I mean, he's behind Michael Clayton. I believe he's also behind the TV show Andor. Did I hear that somewhere? But Tony Gilroy is a respected filmmaker. And this does sound interesting about a family of Hollywood composers. Could be interesting. I mean, it's got really fascinating people in it, like Pedro Pascal's apparently in it. So yeah, I mean, it does sound good. I mean, it feels like this is going to be one of the fall festival premieres, Venice or Telluride or somewhere like that. One issue is it is distributed by Searchlight, so at best it's going to be Searchlight's second choice behind Wild Horse 9, and as things stand, I've got 2 Searchlight pictures in my top 10. So that is perhaps going to be an issue, but of the options available, I think Behemoth is the one I feel strongly about. But, I mean, I said in my last video that if I was 100% sure that Cry to Heaven is going to be released in 2026, it would be in my top 10. And I'm still not 100% sure. I mean, again, this feels like a film that is going to premiere in the fall festivals. My guess is Venice, and I think it is going to be a 2026 film, and as such, I think it will be a major contender for Best Picture. Doesn't have distribution yet, which is concerning. It feels to me like it might be a Sony film. If I had to guess, that would be my best bet for Cry to Heaven. Maybe A24. Because I'm not sure A24 has a top tier contender as things stand, but I will be talking about some of the stuff later. It is going to be interesting if it comes out in 2026, and if it does come out in 2026, who distributes it? That's going to be interesting for Cry to Heaven. But whatever happens, I think it is going to be a major contender for Best Picture whenever it comes out. So yeah, now we come to the first of the Cannes films that didn't do as well as many people were anticipating. I mean, it was a co-winner of Best Director, but Fatherland didn't seem to wow. Well, it got really good reviews, but by the sound of it, it's a film for the head rather than the heart. It's a film that potentially is a little bit cold. It does seem to be largely 2 people talking. I mean, Hans Zischler and Sandra Hüller. And it does seem to be, very detached, very conversational. Not necessarily the kind of film which can be embraced by a large audience. And a similar kind of tone to what, by the sounds of it, Fjord is. So 2 similar kinds of films, and Fjord actually won the Palm, whereas Fatherland co-won the Best Director prize. So yeah, there's only so many international features or foreign language features which can get into the top 10, and I think Fatherland's going to be on the outside looking in. It's probably going to be a major contender for Best International Feature, because I can't imagine that Poland's going to submit anything else. But for Best Picture, I'm not convinced by Fatherland anymore. And yeah, then we come to Disclosure Day. The main reason why I delayed this video. I didn't like it very much. I mean, I was okay with it for the majority of the running time. I think Emily Blunt's pretty good. I think she's got a shout for Best Actress. But when I got asked to describe this film after I'd come home from seeing it, the descriptor that came to mind first was old-fashioned. I think this is not necessarily a film which belongs in 2026. It either feels like the early 80s with lots of parallels to Close Encounters of the Third Kind, so Steven Spielberg going back to his very early days, or the mid-90s, because it's also a lot of parallels to The X-Files. I think the ending of this film is flawed. It is about, Josh O'Connor is a whistleblower. He used to work for a government organisation who's been hiding the truth about extraterrestrial visitation since Roswell in 1947. And he steals this huge cache of videos and documents and whatever and goes on the run. And evil people are after him, headed by Colin Firth, which is awesome. I haven't seen Colin Firth in a while. So he's on the run. He wants to spread the truth. The thing is that right from the very start of the film, it's established very firmly that the world is on the brink of World War III. There's lots of news reports going on talking about North Korea and Russia and the United States and tensions all over the place. The apocalypse is very, very close. So when the conclusion of this film, it's not so much of a spoiler because that you know where it's going. I mean, when the truth is revealed, the truth is out there. Aliens are real. They've been real for 70 odd years. And people stop and stare in wonder at the truth of aliens. Why do they give a shit when the world is on the brink of utter annihilation? World War III is starting. Why do we care about aliens? I think Steven Spielberg is far too optimistic about the human race. I mean, if you watched any of my videos, I am firmly a self-confessed cynic. I don't believe that the human race would be that involved, would be that brought together by the truth of aliens. I just don't think we would give a shit, particularly when the world is on the utter brink of annihilation. I'm also a committed atheist, and I think there's heavy messianic overtones towards the end of this film as well. And the bad guys give up far too easily. I mean, there's confrontations towards the end, and the bad guys don't go as far as I think they would do in real life. I mean, they have guns, they don't use them. I think Steven Spielberg wanted to make a hopeful film, and in his mind, from right in the early days, I mean, this is the guy who made E.T., this is the guy who made Close Encounters of the Third Kind, even though the conclusion of Close Encounters of the Third Kind is Richard Dreyfuss abandoning his family. That's not a happy ending as far as I'm concerned, but that's a whole other issue. I mean, he's always had a positive opinion on alien invasion. Oh, he made that mini-series in the early 2000s about alien abduction, didn't he? Yeah, Taken in 2002.
It started when I was 8.
They have come for me more than once. That super secret spy balloon of yours, want to see what it crashed into?
These people call themselves contactees. They claim that they were taken aboard a craft.
Taken.
Steven Spielberg presents Taken, coming this December only on Sci-Fi.
So yeah, I mean, this has been something that's on Steven Spielberg's mind for a very long time, and he has a hopeful, a positive attitude towards aliens, and I really don't think the world is there anymore. I am a cynic, and I really don't think this would play out the way it plays out in this film. I think it didn't work for me. I also don't think it's worked enough for the critical community. I mean, the response has been positive. At time of recording, it's got a 73 on Metacritic, which is good. I don't think it's good enough for a blockbuster type film like this to actually get in the 10. So I don't think that Disclosure Day is going to be a major contender, and it's not in my 10 anymore. I've taken it out of my Best Picture lineup. And yeah, another blockbuster contender. I mean, now that Narnia's out of the running because it's been pushed to 2027, another contender which a lot of people are going to have in their 10. I've never had in my top 10. I never believed in Dune Part 3. I think Wicked for Good showed us, and to some degree, Avatar Fire and Ash. Well, actually, Avatar Fire and Ash did show us that sequels don't have as easy a job getting in anymore. I mean, everybody's pointing to the Lord of the Rings Return of the King, saying, oh yeah, the third film, that was the one that won everything. But that was a very different time. They don't care about sequels anymore. They didn't particularly care about Dune Part 2. It didn't have as many nominations as Dune Part 1. And I've never read the Dune books. I mean, they're fucking bricks. I've never bothered. But from what I understand, I mean, Dune Messiah, the novel which is the basis for Dune Part 3, that's when it starts getting really, really convoluted and really, really weird. And Timothée Chalamet's character, as I understand it, becomes a bit of a villain. So is that going to be engaging enough? I mean, I do not believe in Dune Part 3. I mean, it's going to get technicals, but above the line categories, I don't think Dune Part 3 is getting anything. I think it's going to be on the outside looking in, and that's where I have it on my list. And yes, another potential blockbuster is Michael. Antoine Fuqua's Michael. As I said, I think this is a disingenuous piece of shit. Common Domingo is good as the abusive father. Jafar Jackson is good as Michael. I think getting the dancing, which is absolutely vital for this role, the dancing is incredible. I mean, he really looks like his uncle Michael. I mean, Jafar Jackson is the son of Jermaine Jackson. And the dancing, the performing, he's got down pat. The voice, the mannerisms, great. But it's only the first half of the story, and it says, his story continues. We're making reference to the album His Story. But we don't see the bad stuff. I mean, this is not a rise and fall narrative as so many of these biopics are. This is just the rise. And I think something which isn't being discussed enough is the fact that if indeed there is a part 2, which there probably will be because it's been enormously successful and Lionsgate has spent so much money on this damn thing. So there will be a part 2, which is going to have the bad stuff in it. Therefore, there is the option, which I do think some people, maybe even a lot of people, will take the option, to just not watch it because they don't want to hear the bad stuff. And even then, this is a film produced by the Jackson estate, with so many of the producers, the listed producers on this film, have the last name Jackson. So they're not going to fully address that. I mean, and the reason why it had to be put into 2 is because the first draft of the film apparently named one of Jackson's accusers, which, given the settlement which was given to him, they absolutely weren't allowed to do. They weren't allowed to mention him by name in any biopic or anything. And they just didn't bother to realise that, and they had to completely reshoot and redo the end of the film. And from what I understand, the people who have read the scripts and are aware of the situation say that it's a complete whitewashing of Michael Jackson and his legacy. It's disingenuous bullshit. I mean, I didn't want to pay for it, so I fully admit I pirated it. I don't want to give any financial support in any way to the Jackson estate, but I had to watch it for this, so I pirated it. And yes, I think Jafar Jackson is good, Com Domingo is good. Whether or not they're going to be in the actual list or my personal list come the actual awards time, we shall see, but they're both good in service of a completely reprehensible project, but they're good. I hope Michael doesn't get in, and it's a 39% on Metacritic at the moment, which is not good enough. So hopefully we can just push that to the side and ignore it, because that's what it deserves. It deserves to be ignored. But that's Michael. And yes, Sense and Sensibility. Is this going to be an actual contender? I don't know. I mean, we have got a trailer for this, which I've started seeing before screenings it in UK cinemas. And it looks good, it looks fun. It looks like a much more naturalistic approach than the Ang Lee directed Emma Thompson-Risson version of, what was that, 94 roughly, that came out, something like that. The last time we had a Sense and Sensibility adaptation. This is the kind of thing that is going to get an audience. I mean, Wuthering Heights earlier in the year, even though that was a bad adaptation, still pretty successful. And, you know, Sense and Sensibility with a good cast. Daisy Edgar-Jones, George Mackay, Katrina Balfe, Fiona Shaw, Esme Creed-Mills. It's got a really, really good cast. And Georgia Oakley, director of Blue Jean, which I think was a great queer film from a couple of years ago. It looks good. I mean, is it going to be enough to be a true contender for Best Picture? I just don't know. It could go either way. It could be populist, certainly, but is it going to be elevated enough to get it into Best Picture? I don't know yet. I'd like it to, because I really want a director like Georgia Oakley to do well, and I want classical literature like Sense and Sensibility to do well. But will it actually get into Best Picture? Who knows? But I'm keeping my fingers crossed, and at the moment it's just outside the contenders. And yeah, then we come to The Adventures of Cliff Booth, which I've never been a strong believer in, because I think it's just such a weird proposition. David Fincher directing a spin-off / sequel / whatever the fuck of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And I'm on record in my old audio podcast. I didn't like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I don't think Brad Pitt deserved that Oscar for supporting actor. Why are we doing this? And yet, until very recently, this seemed like Netflix's biggest contender. I'm not sure it is. I mean, I think it's going to be like David Fincher's, was it his last film? I think it was The Killer, which was on Netflix and just vanished into the ether, just evaporated. Wasn't a contender at all. And I think there's a chance that the same thing is going to happen to The Adventures of Cliff Booth, because it just feels so weird to me. I don't think it's going to be a contender, but it was Netflix's seemingly biggest contender until Cannes. And now I've got a whole raft of new entries which came out of the Cannes Film Festival. And the first one was bought by Netflix and seems to be Netflix's biggest contender now. And I strongly considered putting it in my top 10 right now over Josephine. I'm not quite there yet, but The Black Ball is a Spanish film directed by Javier Ambrosi and Javier Calvo, which are collectively known as Los Javis, very much like Daniels, where for Everything Everywhere All at Once, Messrs. Kwan and Scheinert. But Senores and Brossi and Calvo are known as Los Javis, and this was one of the buzziest films coming out of Cannes. And the fact that Netflix bought it and there was a bidding war, which Netflix won, and they seem to have spent a lot of money on it. This right now seems like Netflix's strongest contender. And it got absolute rave reviews. It didn't win one of the major awards. It co-won the Best Director award alongside Pavel Pawlikowski for Fatherland. Los Javis won Best Director. And it sounds cool. I mean, it's got and it's an epic about gay relationships or gay people in 3 different time periods throughout history of Spanish history, from the I think it's the Spanish Civil War in the 1930s going all the way through to roughly the present day, and related about an unfinished play or something, which is supposedly what this film is based on, is an unfinished play. I don't know exactly what it is, but it's epic, it's queer, and it got absolute rave reviews coming out of Cannes, and it got a co-winner of the Best Director award. So, yeah, the fact that Netflix bought it and spent a lot of money on it, right now this looks like Netflix's big contender, and when Netflix want to push something, they push it, and they often succeed. So, a lot of people have the Black Ball in their top 10 right now. I'm not quite there yet. I probably should be, but right now in the middle of June, I still believe a little bit more in Josephine than I believe in the Black Ball. But that was a big debate in my mind which would go in, because right now this looks like Netflix's big contender. Also coming out of Cannes, we have Minotaur, and this was always going to be one of the big contenders because this is Andrei Zvyagintsev latest film. He's the director of Leviathan, of Loveless, very good but very bleak films, and he's been in trouble with the Russian authorities. I mean, interestingly, he got in trouble with Putin, and yet Russia submitted Leviathan anyway, and that managed to get... It definitely got the 15 film shortlist. I think it got nominated that year, but it was a brilliant film. Bleak, but brilliant. And despite the fact Putin and the regime really didn't like him, they submitted it anyway. But that's not going to happen anymore. For one thing, Zvyagintsev now living in exile. He lives in France, and this was financed in France. It's Russian language, but as far as I'm aware, it was completely shot in France. Quite apart from that, since the Ukraine war started, Russia hasn't even bothered submitting films to the international feature race. So that's not going to happen. So the only way this is going to get into the international feature race is if France submits it. And I struggle to believe that the French Academy would submit a film not in French for the 3rd year running, after it was just an accident last year and Emilia Perez the year before. Surely they have to submit a film in French this year, so I don't think Minotaur is going to get into the international feature race. If it had won the Palm and got that automatic qualification, then this would be really high up the list, but I don't think this is getting into the international, and therefore I think it's going to struggle getting into the best picture and anything else. But it still needs to be on the list because it did win the Grand Prix, the second prize. The jury prize went to a German film by Valeska Griesbach, which a lot of people described as very long and very boring. So I'm not sure that's going to be a contender. Was it? Yeah, The Dreamed Adventure by Valeska Griesbach. And personally speaking, I didn't like her last film, which was called Western. That didn't work for me at all. So yeah, that I don't think it's going to be a contender. But Minotaur did win the Grand Prix. So I think it's worth putting on a list like this, but I don't have very much hope for it, particularly when there's so many other international and foreign language stuff that is out there. And Minotaur is distributed by Mubi, as is another film, and I think this is going to be a much higher priority for Mubi over Minotaur, although Fatherland is Mubi's big push this year. But Coward by Lucas Dant did reasonably well. I mean, the Metacritic score isn't fantastic compared to some of these other films. It's only at a 66 when everything else is in the 80s and 90s. So, I mean, there's some people who have taken against this, but Coward is set in the First World War, and it's a kind of a queer romance about entertainers who go around the trenches entertaining the troops, and a young soldier becomes enamoured of one of these male entertainers, and when he tries to join them, gets accused of cowardice or something along those lines. But Lucas Dant, his last film, Close, was, in my opinion, an absolute masterpiece. Until the very end, the film he had before that, Girl, was excellent, but the ending is so bad and so disrespectful to the trans experience that that's a problem. But until the very, very end of Girl, I think it was good. So Lucas Dant is a great filmmaker working in the queer space. And Coward, I think, is going to be a very strong contender in the international feature, because surely Belgium's going to submit it. Best Picture, maybe not, but it did make waves coming out of Cannes. And then we had a film which basically came out of absolutely nowhere. I mean, nowhere that I was looking was really paying attention to this film, but it did really, really well in the Un Certain Regard section, and then was bought by A24 for a lot of money. And right now, at time of recording, this looks like A24's biggest profile film. It's called Club Kid, and is a first-time director, Jordan Firstman, who is an actor and also stars in the film. This kind of has the same plot as the old Adam Sandler film Big Daddy, where an irresponsible guy suddenly has charge of a child. Only in this case, it's a gay club promoter or something who suddenly has a child to look after. And this seems to have absolutely wowed people at Cannes, including A24. The fact that A24 bought this, and it looks like A24's biggest push at the moment, although it might skew a little bit too young for the Academy. I mean, it feels like something that's going to do really well on Letterboxd, really well on Film Twitter. Is it going to do well in the actual awards? Who can say? But Club Kid is now something to definitely pay attention to. Oh, and one of the very, very few other American films which was at Cannes is James Gray's film Paper Tiger. And I'm not really confident in this, because the reviews were good, not great. And even the good reviews seem to be talking about Scarlett Johansson massively overacting, which doesn't sound too positive. And the Academy doesn't have the best history with James Gray. I mean, he's done some really good films in the past. Things like The Lost City of Z was a cool film. Armageddon Time, kind of an autobiographical type film, was supposed to be a bigger thing than it was. I mean, it was okay. The majority of James Gray's films, personally speaking, I think are okay. So I don't think Paper Tiger's going to be a really, really strong contender. Certainly not as strong as some of the other Cannes films I'm listing here. But I think we need to talk about it. And also The Man I Love was another American film which slipped into the Cannes lineup. The latest film from Ira Sachs. Now, a lot of the time I really do like Ira Sachs' work. Didn't like his last film, Peter Hujar's Day, but the last film before that was that one with a bisexual love triangle. What was that called? Oh yeah, that was it. Passages, with Ben Whishaw, Franz Rogowski, and Adele Exarchopoulos in a bisexual love triangle. That was good. I enjoyed that, and I've liked a lot of other of Ira Sachs's films. Love is Strange was the first time I really became aware of him. I really like Ira Sachs's work, with the exception of Peter Hujar's Day, which was, in my opinion, a complete waste of time. But The Man I Love did get good reviews and reports coming out of Cannes. At the moment, it doesn't have distribution, which it is mildly concerning. But apparently Rami Malek is good in it, and in common with a lot of Ira Sachs's early work, it's about the AIDS crisis in the 80s, so hot button issues. It's definitely worth paying attention to. Yeah, still in this middle tier from my last video, we have Being Human, Sian Hedder's new film, her follow-up to Coda. I don't think I fully believe in this. I mean, I think Ruth Madeley, wheelchair-using actress, playing a disability rights activist who was instrumental in the Disability Rights Act and occupied the federal building in San Francisco, which was documented in the brilliant documentary Crip Camp, which I believe is still available for free on YouTube. So do check out Crip Camp. It's also on Netflix. And Judy Heumann is in that, and Sian Heder directs a film, a biopic about her, with Ruth Madeley, the wheelchair-using actress, portraying her. That sounds really cool. A bit too Oscar baity for the modern Oscars, maybe. But Apple is distributing it, and I don't really have anything else. So if Apple decides they want to really, really push this, and they do really push it, who knows? It could get in there. And yeah, Werewolf. I like the work of Robert Eggers, but if Nosferatu couldn't be a serious contender in above the line categories, I really don't think Werewolf will be. Nosferatu had the benefit of being a remake of the originating horror movie. I mean, Nosferatu from 1923 or whatever it was is the foundation of the overwhelming majority of horror cinema. And remaking that film gets you noticed. Didn't get you enough notice to get a Best Picture rose, so Werewolf, which as far as I'm aware is a completely original story, you're already starting behind the starting line. I mean, I don't see it becoming a major contender. Technicals, makeup and hairstyling, almost certainly. Maybe cinematography, maybe visual effects. Best Picture, probably not, but I'd like it to be there, so it's still on the list. Yeah, and moving up slightly into this middle tier from my last video is The Invite, Olivia Wilde's four-handed film. Because if A24 doesn't decide that Pushing Club Kid is worth it because it's such a youthful film aimed at a younger audience, it looks like right now, at time of recording, A24's best option is The Invite. I mean, there's others I'm going to be talking about a little bit later. Is A24 going to push this? If they do, can they succeed? So yeah, I mean, that's the reason I've pushed this up to the middle tier, because there's certainly a world in which The Invite is A24's big push. And if that is the case, then it deserves to be up in this middle tier, and there wasn't anything better to put in that slot, in my opinion. So yeah, the final slot in this middle tier of contenders is Olivia Wilde's The Invite. And yeah, now we come to the bottom tier, the maybe tier. And the top of this list is a lot of films that have been pushed down out of the middle tier by all the stuff that got pushed in because of Cannes. And some of these were at Cannes and didn't do well. And we're starting with Bitter Christmas, Pedro Almodovar's new film, which didn't get good reviews. It's already come out in Spain and it still managed to get into Cannes competition, and by the sound of it, it isn't vintage Almodovar, and let's face it, there hasn't been vintage Almodovar for a very, very long time. Yeah, it sounds like a pretty standard story of divorce. Didn't work, apparently. One of the most surprising failures at Cannes was Hirokatsu Koreeda's film Sheep in the Box, which really didn't get good reviews. I mean, by the sound of it, it's very, very similar to the Steven Spielberg film AI. You know, a grieving family takes in a robot child to replace their dead son or something. By the sound of it, he doesn't do anything interesting with that. It got very, very poor reviews, which is disappointing because Kuroda, he's one of my absolute favourite directors. So yeah, it doesn't sound like this new one's very good, or it's certainly got terrible reviews coming out of Cannes. Yeah, pushed down out of the middle tier by the Cannes stuff simply because it wasn't at Cannes and couldn't be at Cannes because it's distributed by Netflix, and Cannes has the rule about Netflix films not playing at Cannes, is Lee Chang-dong's film Possible Love. We still don't know anything about this. Lee Chang-dong, I think, is a brilliant director. His film Burning came out the same year as Parasite, and I think Burning was a better film than Parasite. The plot of Possible Love sounds like sort of like interconnected romances and possibly infidelity. Doesn't sound great from the little we know about it, but it is Lee Chang-dong, and it is Netflix, and if Netflix do want to push it, maybe they will. Although they do have the black ball now. Yeah, I mean, this got pushed out simply because it wasn't at Cannes. Also pushed down a tier because it has come out and it's already proved very divisive, although I kind of liked it. But I understand why it pushed down. Is The Drama by Christopher Borgley. Christopher Borgley is a strange director, and this is a strange film. I don't think it entirely works. I think Christopher Borgley has a very specific point he wants to make, and he makes it despite the fact maybe this wasn't the best place to say it, or the best way to say it. But yeah, it proved very, very divisive, and for that reason, if nothing else, it's sliding down. The Dog Stars from Sir Ridley Scott. We have had a trailer for this recently. It just looks like a post-apocalyptic drama. Doesn't look like anything special. I mean, you really don't know with Ridley Scott. Sometimes he makes awards-based films, sometimes he just makes entertainments, and this looks like just an entertainment. Looks interesting. I mean, good cast with Jacob Elordi and is it Margaret Qualley, I think it was, and Josh Brolin. So yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing it. I don't think it's going to be an awards contender in the slightest. So yeah, the Dog Stars slides down. Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Miasma. It continues to be my absolute most anticipated film of 2026. I can't wait to see this. I'm going to be doing a reaction to it. I mean, I reacted to Jane Schonberg's last film, I Saw the TV Glow, which I think was superb. Heartbreaking, tragic, but brilliant. I Saw the TV Glow. And Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Miasma sounds like it might be a little bit more fun. And it did get really, really good reviews coming out of Cannes. I mean, the fact it was in Cannes at all is amazing. And I love the fact it got such good reviews coming out of it. But it's a self-aware, possibly even a parody film of a slasher horror movie made by a trans filmmaker. That's so many things which are potentially going to push it down. I can't imagine this is going to be a serious contender come Oscar time. I would love it if it was, and it did get really good reviews coming out of Cannes. I mean, it's a 91 on Metacritic. Of all the films I'm talking about, I think it's the second or third best rated film on Metacritic. That doesn't mean it's going to get any attention from the Academy. I would love it if it did. I hope it does. This is wish casting more than anything, but I'm keeping Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Miasma on this list. I'm going to continue talking about it. I'm going to continue promoting it. Who knows? When I see it, I might think it's shit, but this is my most anticipated film of 2026, and it's staying on the list, goddammit. Yeah, another very anticipated film is The Realms of Undying King. I've been waiting for this over a year now. I mean, it premiered at South by Southwest last year to great reviews and just didn't come out. And I think its time has passed at this point. But I'm fascinated by it. I mean, because why didn't it sell? Why did Black Bear have to decide to distribute it itself? I mean, when the film production company Black Bear moves into distribution, this is one of the first films it goes for. And it's being released in August in the States, which also doesn't sound good. So, what is The Rivals of Amzai King? I don't know. Is it going to be anything? Who knows? But I'm fascinated by it. So I honestly don't think it's going to be a strong contender. Who knows? Something that may end up being a contender is Andrew Haig's new film, A Long Winter. I mean, Andrew Haig is one of my favourite filmmakers. I mean, Weekend is one of the greatest queer romances of the last 20 years. 45 Years, I think, was fantastic. Lean on Pete, brilliant. All of Us Strangers should have got so much more love than it actually did. I mean, all the Andrew Haig films I've seen, I've loved. And I'm assuming that A Long Winter is going to be no different. I think this is one of the ones that's probably going to come out at Venice or one of the other fall festivals. We shall see. But potentially, maybe A Long Winter is going to become a serious contender right at the top of the list. I think regardless of anything else, it's probably going to do really well at the BAFTAs, at the Oscars. Who knows? But A Long Winter is definitely one to keep an eye on for whenever it comes out. Wuthering Heights is still on the list because I guess it's one of the more high-profile films of the year. It's a bad adaptation of the novel. I mean, it does have those quotation marks around the title. I mean, the production design, costume design, maybe even there was a song by Charlie XCX which may end up being a contender. The look of the film, amazing. Acting, pretty good. It's just not Wuthering Heights. But I think it still needs to be on the list. It's not going to be a contender for Best Picture. Yeah, the next two films, I really don't know if they're going to come out in 2026. Jack of Spades by Joel Coen. He's probably coming out in 2026. And if and when it does, I think it will probably be a contender because The Tragedy of Macbeth was good. I mean, if nothing else, the cinematography of The Tragedy of Macbeth was extraordinary. Ethan Coen is making those weird queer crime capers. Drive Away Dolls was pretty good. Honey Don't wasn't. But Joel Coen following up The Tragedy of Macbeth with this. Still don't know a great deal about this, but I'm presuming that if and when it does come out in 2026, it will be a contender. And then we have Todd Haynes' film De Noche, which I have very little confidence is going to come out in 2026. I'm guessing at some point it will be officially pushed to 2027, but as far as I'm aware, that hasn't happened yet. So on the slim chance that it does actually come out in 2026, I think it will be a contender because Todd Haynes is usually a contender. And there's also that controversy about Joaquin Phoenix pulling out at the last minute and costing people money. So I think there's some sympathy and some goodwill towards the project as well. I don't think that's going to be a 2026 film, but it's still on the list just in case it is. And yeah, now we have some new entries into the list from the last video, and I'm going to start with The Beloved by Rodrigo Sorogoyen, and this is another Cannes premiere that I'm putting on the list, but I didn't put it in with that big chunk earlier of films that came out at Cannes because A, there's so many other international foreign language films that I wanted to talk about. B, this doesn't have distribution yet. And C, I think this is not so much a Best Picture contender, but by the sounds of it, Javier Bardem starring in The Beloved might be an acting contender. So I think you need to be aware of it for that reason, even though the starting points of this film is very similar to the starting points of Sentimental Value last year with an aging actor and director trying to make a film with his own daughter in the cast, and the tensions between father and daughter coming to light in this artistic endeavour. By the sound of it, it goes in a very different directions to Sentimental Value, but the starting point is very, very similar. So it's unfortunate for Rodrigo Sorogoyen that he came out with a similar type of story the year after Sentimental Value. But you need to pay attention to it, because Javier Bardem might be a serious contender for acting. Yeah, the next two on the list are two A24 films. I mean, I've already said, I think that Club Kid right now is the number one contender, and probably The Invite is number two. Many people have No One Cares, I think, is going to be the title of this Jesse Eisenberg comedy. I don't actually believe in this one. Some people have this in their tan. Some people are really, really pushing this. Oh, this is going to be the big thing. Because of A Real Pain. And A Real Pain should have got so much more than it did. But, Jesse Eisenberg is following up this Oscar-nominated and Oscar-winning film. So, obviously, we're going to do it again, aren't we? I'm not so sure. I mean, from what I hear, this is a very quirky, somewhat confrontational film. I mean, it's not a musical in the traditional sense, from what I hear, and people are describing it as a musical. Personally speaking, I think you don't need to pay attention to A Real Pain, his last film as director, but his debut feature as director a couple of years before that, when you finished Saving the World.
By that logic, we should just occupy every country.
Yo, I agree with you, Lila.
Thank you, Ziggy. How do you agree with Lila?
Oh, shit.
Excuse my brain for knowing what not to say. I know it'll get better with the page.
This is the real Ziggy Cats. Thanks for tuning in.
Mom! Did you open my door while I was... Shit, I'm sorry. Did you try to open the door while I was live streaming?
What's live streaming?
That's where I have 20,000 followers, and I'm validated, and I'm starred, which is terror hard to get.
Just make sure you don't play the blues.
What?
White people playing blues music. Just cultural appropriation.
I play classic folk rock with alternative influences.
I don't know what that means.
And then you called the police.
I called them.
You're in the right place, you're safe, and you'll have 2 beds for as long as you need.
He's my little knight in shining armor.
It's true, kids are just pure love, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
What the hell are you doing?
Installing a red beacon light so people know when I'm live streaming.
And by people, you
I mean you.
Ziggy, you don't have to be interested in politics.
You think I'm stupid?
No, I didn't say that.
I brought you this hat, Kyle. It was my son's, but he no longer wears it. I don't know what he wears anymore.
Which was a very low-key family drama, indie type film, Sundance type film. Actually, did it play at Sundance? Yeah, it premiered at the 2022 Sundance Film Festival, and that's the kind of film this new project sounds like. I mean, this one stars Julianne Moore as well. Not a contender at all, and I don't think this is going to be either. I think there's a chance it does, but people are pushing this far, far too hard, in my opinion. I don't think this is going to be anything at all. But I think it still needs to be mentioned, so it is still on the list. Whatever it ends up being called, I think it's going to be No One Cares. Another potential thing that A24 could push is Tony, a biopic of Anthony Bourdain, the early years of Anthony Bourdain, directed by Matt Johnson, who did Blackberry, which was excellent, and is most famous for Nirvana, the band, the show, and the film version, Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie, which I've never watched. It doesn't really feel like my kind of thing. I'm not a big fan of awkward humour, which that seems to be. But Matt Johnson does have a particular aesthetic. I did like Blackberry. And him directing a film about Anthony Bourdain, starring Dominic Sessa, which is interesting. Could be cool. Not sure it's going to be a real contender, but I think it's worth keeping on a list like this, or putting on a list like this. And yeah, the final slot is something I don't really believe in as a contender for Best Picture, but I wanted to put it on because I don't really have any strong feelings about anything else. And I do want to talk about it because I think Tuna by Daniel Roher is a pretty good film. I saw it a couple of weeks ago. And it works. I don't think it's a genuine contender, but I do recommend it. So if nothing else, this is an opportunity for me to recommend the film Tuna. Directed by Daniel Roher, who is the Oscar-winning director of the documentary Navalny. This is his narrative feature debut about a young man, Leo Woodall, who has hyperacusis, extreme sensitivity to sound, so he constantly has to wear earplugs just to survive. But he accidentally realises that this is actually really, really handy when it comes to cracking safes. So he falls into a life of criminality because basically this is a film about economic deprivation. He is a working class guy set in a world which is not set up for working class people. So he falls into this criminal gang and tries to survive, tries to form an attachment to an attractive young pianist played by Havana Rose Liu, who is rapidly becoming one of my favourite actresses. She was awesome in Bottoms. I've seen her in many other things and she's great. So he's trying to form this connection with this pianist. He's trying to help pay for his mentor's medical bills, played by Dustin Hoffman. First time I've seen Dustin Hoffman in a while. But yeah, this idea of having such sensitive hearing that you can really crack safes, that's a really cool concept, and it works. It works as a crime caper. It works as a film about economic deprivation, about desperation of just trying to survive in the modern world as a working class person. And your job is to tune pianos for all these rich families, the only people who own grand pianos, and you go into their houses and fix them. And the overwhelming majorities of these pianos never even get played. They're more decoration than anything. And yet you're there tuning them and having to listen to all these rich people complain. It's a good film. It's a crime caper. It's a film about economic deprivation. It's really well acted. It's a decent romance as well. I believe the chemistry between Leo Woodall and Havana Rose Liu. So yeah, I basically just wanted to recommend the film Tuna in case you weren't aware of it. Don't think it's an actual contender come Oscar time, but I think it's worth mentioning at the bottom of this list. So there we have it. That is my current list of 40 films which, to some degree or another, are contenders for Best Picture. Still haven't seen nearly enough of these films, but we're gradually starting ticking off the list. It's not going to be too long before The Odyssey actually comes out in cinemas, which is going to be very interesting, very exciting. What else is coming out? Oh, and a different track, Toy Story 5 is going to be coming out soon. I haven't really considered animated feature as of yet, but that's going to be a contender there. What else have we got coming out? So yeah, within the next couple of weeks, which I'm going to have to squeeze in between staying up all night watching the World Cup with so many games at 2 a.m. UK time. What else is coming up? Oh, The Invite is not too far in the future. Going to be able to see that soon. Oh, Rosebush Pruning, which I don't think is going to be an actual contender, but I'm really, really fascinated to see that. That's the new Karaminous film, written by Efthimis Philippou, who usually works with Yorgos Lanthimos. Yeah, The Odyssey is 17th of July. So about a month away. Oh, and yeah, you've got the superhero films, Supergirl and Spider-Man Brand New Day, but those aren't Oscar contenders, or at least not above the line. The Invite coming soon. The Odyssey is the really big one next month. And I don't know when I'm going to be doing another one of these videos. Maybe next month. Well, considering that I'm going to have to fit everything in and around the World Cup, I don't think I'm going to be doing too much recording. But since this is day one, I'm going to finish this and then head back downstairs. I've still got a couple of hours before Czechia, South Korea kicks off. Yeah, I've still got about 3 hours before Czechia, South Korea kicks off. That is my current thoughts on the state of the Best Picture Oscar race. And yes, I think that is where I leave you. I mean, I've still got other stuff on the channel. Because of the World Cup, I've actually got ahead in my recording of my Charmed TV reactions. Got several of those scheduled already. The next movie reaction I'm planning doing is Obsession, the horror movie Obsession. The actress in that, Indy Navarrete, is apparently getting some serious Oscar buzz for that. I mean, given Amy Madigan last year, I don't think she deserved that Oscar, but she did get it for a horror film, so who knows. That's going to be interesting. That's the next reaction I'm planning to do a video for. Yeah, various other stuff. So, yes, if you watch this for us, the video, maybe I deserve a like. Have a look around. You might find other videos to appreciate and like. Hit the notification bell. Subscribe. Leave a comment. Do anything which helps the algorithm promote this tiny, tiny little channel. But for right now, that is where I leave you. And all that remains for me to say is this has been a presentation of the Yay, Nay or Meh channel. And I will see you next time where I shine a light on TV and cinema, both obvious and obscure.